She lost her fiancé, her freedom, and the simple ability to interact with the people around her. But through it all, Louise Troh says her story was one of love for Thomas Eric Duncan, the first Ebola patient to be diagnosed and sadly to die in the U.S., and her love for God, her church, and the people right here in this city. Right now, Louise Troh is joining us to tell more of her story, her side of the story. She is the co-author of a new book. It is called My Spirit Took You In, the romance that sparked an epidemic fear. Louise, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, too.
Much appreciated. You met Eric, as you call him, 20 years ago, some 20 years or more ago, in Liberia as refugees, and you had dreamed of coming to America for many years. Is that correct?
It's true. It is correct.
When you were finally reunited with him, you had plans to get married. How soon after he arrived did you realize he was becoming ill?
It was like 3 days later, and he started to get fever. He had fever for like Wednesday morning, I would say. He came on Saturday.
And you make it clear in the book, you set the record straight, that neither of you knew or suspected that he might have been exposed to Ebola.
No, not at all. If I had known, he wasn't even going to come.
As coverage of this story began to unfold, continuous coverage internationally, and there was speculation that that was the case, how did you temper your anger with your grief?
I just gave everything to God. He brought us back for me to talk the truth. If I had died along with Eric, the truth was not going to be revealed.
Because truthfully, as he began to become more ill, you were exposed, as were your children,
My children
to Ebola, and your
yes.
grandchildren. Did the system fail him? Did the health system in this country fail your fiancé?
They did. They did. Even the government failed him. They failed us, not just him.
And how did it fail you, do you think? At what point along the way? We know that he went to the ER to start with and was, would you describe it as him being turned away? We had at one point characterized it as a misdiagnosis. Which was it?
And he was turned away. He was turned away because we can't even tell, because we never had time. Ebola is something that you don't have second opinion. So we have to agree.
They thought it was the flu?
I thought it was malaria.
You thought it was malaria. He'd been exposed to that. And so as it became worse and you watched the coverage unfold of this, did you feel like your story was being swept under the rug? We only heard bits and pieces of what your life was like, and you spell it out here. You were essentially, it sounds like, banished to loneliness.
Yes, it was. That's how I was looking, because I couldn't even see my children. We couldn't even communicate to say anything. Even my daughter asked to go and see him through the glass window. They refused to even send somebody over there to go and see him. They refused.
And it seems like there was a lack of direct communication, because you learned of his death through your niece, who had seen it on ABC News. And you write this quote here. Let's share this if we can with people. That night in the single bed in my bedroom, I felt Eric's spirit come into the room. I could feel it go behind me, between me and the wall and behind the bed. I felt him in my spirit. He was leaving this earth. And that feeling was on point. You got news that he had passed.
Yes, yes, it did. And he called me. He called me twice. He called me twice. My mother called me Ellen, and my father called me Louise. So he was like, Ellen, Ellen. And I answered, and I heard the person, he just crawled behind me. Yes.
Nurses Amber Vincent and Nina Pham fell ill with Ebola. Both of them survived. Have you reached out to them?
Not yet. I couldn't speak up because of my book. But I would be.
You would like to reach out to them?
Yes.
What would you like to say to them if they're watching right now?
I want to really tell them, Nina and Pam, I'm so sorry for what happened to you. And I gave you thanks for the care. It was just the two of you took care of my husband. To be very truthful, it was just the two have feeling for him as a human being. But rather than that, no one else. That's why you caught Ebola. I'm so sorry that you have to come down with that deadly disease. But I'm happy that you are still here and he's gone.
Well, I am sorry for your loss. We all are. And I'm also sorry if in the middle of our coverage here or elsewhere we lost sight of the personal story. That he was more than patient zero. He was someone, more. He was much more than that, someone you loved and cared for.
And his children. My son didn't get to see his father. They refused. He kept crying in the bed, if I could see my son. If I could see my son. They should have reached out to his son to let him come and see him through the glass window. That's why I told him, and it penalized my son for coming down, and he did not get to see his father. He is hurt up to this time.
Well, let's hope that your story prevents it from happening to anybody else. Thank you.
Nobody else.
Louise
Thank
Troh.
you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah,
Appreciate
thanks
it.
for having me.
You are welcome. Alexa, back to you.
Thank you. Very brave, honest account.